1, it's Reed Richards. 2, it's Susan Storm. 3, it's Johnny Storm. 4, it's Benjamin Grimm. It's the Fantastic Four. It's the Fantastic Four. It's the Fantastic Four.
What is up, hostages? It's the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four! Come on, it's the Fantastic Four. So let's talk about the first 10 members, shall we? Because you'd be surprised, actually, how many members of the Fantastic Four there have been over the years. A lot more than 4. The first 4, though, go without saying. We got Ben Grimm, the Thing. We got Reed Richards, the Mr. Fantastic. We got the Invisible Woman, Susan Storm, and her brother, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. They were adventurers, you know? They actually stole a rocket to beat the commies to space. What they said, it was the 60s. And while out in space, they got bombarded with cosmic rays. Benjamin Grimm became the rock man known as the Thing. Mr. Fantastic, like I said, Reed Richards got the stretchy powers. The Susan Storm could turn invisible and became the Invisible Girl, later the Invisible Woman. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, because he'd always admired the Human Torch of the Golden Age, so he took that name. Also, what do you call yourself if you light on fire? Reed Richards and Susan Storm would go on to get married. They would have Franklin and Valeria. I'm not going to go too much into detail on the first 4 members of the Fantastic Four. They all appeared in Fantastic Four #1 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They were kind of costumed adventurers, not as much superheroes, a lot like the Challengers of the Unknown, but they are also the first family of Marvel. They are like the mom and dad of the superhero community, and you know, the Thing is everybody's uncle. Johnny Storm is everybody's little brother. Like, they're well integrated into the Marvel Comics proper. You know all about them. I'm going to talk about them more here and there throughout the video anyway. So those were the original members of the Fantastic Four. Boom, off to a rockin' start. The next potential member was the Amazing Spider-Man himself, though not really. It was just in Amazing Spider-Man #1, his very first appearance. What did he do? He's like, I'm going to join the Fantastic Four. Hey, come on, we could be the Fantastic Five. He breaks into the Fantastic Four headquarters and tries to join them, but they said, we don't pay and you're a wanted criminal, so bye. The next potential member is Iceman, and this is more of a modern revelation. In Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run, they kind of hinted and joked that Iceman had been a member, and Human Torch was like, it doesn't count. And eventually they did explain how that story happened, and Johnny Storm was being an irritable teenager. He ran off and left the team very briefly, and Iceman was doing the same thing. He kind of left the team of the X-Men, but he came across the other 3 members of the Fantastic Four, and they were like, you want to hang out with us for the day? And he's like, yes, I do. And he hung out with them for the day, and then they considered letting him become a member of the Fantastic Four if Johnny wasn't going to come back. Over the years, it had been hinted at that Johnny was really pissy about this, and when Johnny eventually talked to Human Torch about it in the modern day, he was like, listen, other people have been members of the Fantastic Four. That's like, well, we're going to talk about that in the list today. But he's like, if Iceman was officially a member of the Fantastic Four, that makes him the first official recruit, and that means that I left. And this is family, and I don't want to think that I left like that. Therefore, to me, I think it's fun, it's nice, it's having it in there. Iceman even put the little 4 on his chest, but I don't think Iceman was officially a member of the Fantastic Four. But that's a nice little anecdote for you guys, because his biometrics are in the computer. He is recognized as a Fantastic Four member, though I'm not putting him on my list here. The first real official recruit to the Fantastic Four is none other than the Inhuman Crystal. Crystal is an Inhuman princess who debuted with the rest of the Inhumans in Fantastic Four #45 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The Human Torch was a teenage boy and she was a teenage girl.
Can I make it any more obvious?
Before too long, she and Johnny were an item, and as such, Crystal did help the Fantastic Four on several occasions using her elemental Inhuman abilities. Speaking of getting busy, Reed and Sue were actually expecting their firstborn child. Would that make Franklin the first recruit? No, he's a kid. Anyway, as such, Sue was like, pregnant, gonna have a baby here, maybe shouldn't be doing superhero stuff, and they're like, good idea. So Johnny's girlfriend Crystal made herself a costume and stepped up to become the 4th member of the Blue-Clad Quartet in Fantastic Four #81. From there, she stayed on with the team even after Sue came back, though they did not call themselves the Fantastic Five. Eventually, right after Jack Kirby left the title in issue 105, Crystal fell ill. It turns out that being raised under the pollution-free dome of Atalan, her system couldn't handle prolonged exposure to the mucky old gross-ass Earth. So she had to go home. But from there, she would continue to be a major character for years with the Inhumans. She would meet and marry the mutant Quicksilver, and they would go on to have a daughter. Crystal would become an Avenger. She's been a pretty major fixture in the Marvel Universe. And the next recruit for the Fantastic Four does keep the whole familial connection because it is none other than Crystal's sister, Medusa, the queen of the Inhumans. She has prehensile hair so powerful that they had to shave her head rather than pay for the CG of her hair on a television budget. Medusa first appeared back in Fantastic Four number 36, where she was actually an inaugural member of the Frightful Four. And of course, being an Inhuman, she was an occasional ally of the Fantastic Four over the years. But when Sue Storm left Reed and the team, just an aside here, like, nowadays in modern history, people like to joke about what a dick Reed is and how bad of a husband he is, but like rereading these old Fantastic Four comics, like, he's bad. He's a dick. She had good reason to leave. Anyway, they got into a fight because Reed only saw Sue as the mother of his child, rather than a wife or a teammate, let alone the strongest member of the team. So Sue left Reed and the team, and as her replacement, Medusa was welcomed into the team. Also, Johnny got a red costume. Medusa would stick with the Fantastic Four for 26 issues. Like, these replacements are not small stints. They are big replacements for Sue. Always with another woman, though. When Sue does eventually rejoin the team, they are about to officially rename themselves the Fantastic Five, which is a big screw you to Crystal. But Medusa decides she's been away from her fellow Inhumans for too long and she should resign to be with them. So she leaves the team, but she would rejoin a version of the FF again in the future. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss when I talk about that video. Hopefully next week, honestly. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe later. I don't know. I'm Haas. Wild and wacky and unpredictable. Hit like too, please. Thank you. The tale of the third replacement member of the Fantastic Four begins in St. Louis with the Hulk and the Thing fighting on top of the Gateway Arch. During that fight, the Hulk has sapped away the Thing's cosmic irradiation and left him as plain old Ben Grimm. And of course, because the Fantastic Four's charter says that there must be 4 superhero members on the team at all times, they kick Ben Grimm out. Gotta love how Stan Lee loved having these charter rules for team members. Anyway, how do they replace a strongman on short notice? Well, who better than the hero for hire, Luke Cage? Better known as Power Man in the 70s, I suppose, Carl Lucas was wrongfully sent to prison where he underwent some experiments and gained super strength and unbreakable skin. Once he got out, he used his powers to be a hero that could make a little cash on the side as a hero for hire. He's actually also the first black superhero to have his own ongoing title. Anyway, in the middle of that solo run, he joined the Fantastic Four. Well, Reed paid him to join the team. He's for hire. He helped fight the Wrecker, but that was about it, because Cage got controlled by the Puppet Master, and Reed had to give Ben his new robot thing suit a little early to defuse the situation. Because Cage was only ever intended to be a temporary replacement for Ben, while Reed built a thing robot suit for Ben to wear. And Reed is just really terrible at communication, so Ben spent several issues pissed off. Also, Ben spent a big chunk of the time in human form inside a robot thing suit. Did you know that? I'm going to take a detour here. I'm going to talk about Herbie. Mary had a little lamb, but then she let it go back house down in the city. Papa Herbie had a show. Now, are you ready? Are you ready? Look. Not that Herbie. Sorry, I guess I was in the right type of mood for that. Herbie, the little robot. The humanoid experimental robot B-type integrated electronics. He was famously created for the 1978 new Fantastic Four cartoon because TV executives thought that children would light themselves on fire if they saw the Human Torch on TV. Which is actually a lie. That is a rumor, that is an urban myth, that is a falsehood. The Human Torch's rights were tied up in something else. There was going to be a solo project with the Human Torch that never came to be, but because of such, the people that made the cartoon couldn't use the Human Torch, so they created Herbie instead. Sorry to burst your bubble, but no, nobody thought kids were going to light themselves on fire. Anyway, he was in that cartoon, eventually made his way to the comics. Now he's in the movie. Haven't seen the movie yet. It's not out for a week, maybe, if I get this video out on time. If you're watching this in the future, let me know what you thought of it. Excuse me. They created Herbie because they didn't want to call the show the Fantastic Three, because that doesn't make sense. But why couldn't they have used Crystal or Medusa or Luke Cage? Like, there have been 3 official replacements by this point in the comics. Like, I'm sure they could have just come up with something, or even, like, why couldn't they have said, oh, it's Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch, he's on our team for whatever reason. Like, I just feel like there could have been something better than Herbie. Anyway, while we're talking about non-official members chronologically in the comics, the next one would be Roberta. Roberta was created by John Byrne. She first appeared in Fantastic Four number 239, and she is a robot receptionist for the Baxter Building. I don't even know why I'm mentioning her. I just kept coming across her while reading these. She was around for quite a while, and she's just a robot receptionist, but like looks like a human. She totally threw the trapster once. Moving right along. Frankie Raye Long story short is that Frankie Raye was a girlfriend of Johnny Storm, and her stepfather was Phineas Horton, the creator of the original World War II android Human Torch. At some point, she got some of the flame chemicals on her, and then her memories were suppressed, but eventually she figured it out and gained the ability to flame on at will. And she started joining them on their adventures. And Reed said, yeah, after a proper training period, we might change our name to the Fantastic Five. Again, a huge screw you to Crystal, but a lot of lists put Frankie Raye down as an official member of the Fantastic Four, and I'm here to tell you, much like Sunfire of the X-Men, Frankie Raye didn't join the Fantastic Four. Even Reed says, nope. Once she gets trained and stuff, maybe we'll let her be a member. But when she bows down to become a Herald of Galactus, even Reed is like, she was a probationary member. We never, no, one of the Fantastic Four is not becoming a Herald. She wasn't with us. We never, she was Human Torch's girlfriend. She fought with the Fantastic Four for like 6 issues. She took the name Nova, but not any relation to the Nova Corps. She was more willing to kill, and Reed was like, we gotta train that out of you. But like I said, when Galactus came, she was like, I will do this. And he was like, yeah, cool. Galactus was found that the Silver Surfer was too noble, and he found that Terrax was a little too evil, and this Frankie Raye, right, just in the middle, perfect, right? Willing to kill, but not crazy about it. That said, she was the Herald of Galactus that led him to the Skrull homeworld. So, way to go, Frankie Raye. Not a member of the Fantastic Four. Now moving right along, if I were to say to you, hey, who's big and green and probably most known for being a replacement member of the Fantastic Four, would you say She-Hulk? If you said She-Hulk, you're correct. She-Hulk is it. When the Beyonder absconded many of the Earth's heroes away to a far distant battle planet to have his little secret wars, Ben Grimm discovered that while there, he could change back to his human form at will. So he decided to stay behind and talk She-Hulk into taking his place on the Fantastic Four. What I actually found most interesting was John Byrne was writing the Fantastic Four at the time, and this was some of his first writing on She-Hulk. And John Byrne is one of those writers that is associated with She-Hulk, and I guess I kind of assumed that whole She-Hulk run came before this, but it didn't. So John Byrne's first taste of She-Hulk, phrasing, was on the Fantastic Four. Find that very interesting. Anyway, Jennifer Walters would be with the Fantastic Four from issue 265 through 299. That is far longer than any other replacement member so far, which is probably why she would get action figures and be in video games with her Fantastic Four costume. Also, she was with the team one of the times Dr. Doom launched the Baxter Building into space, which to me really solidifies you as a member of the Fantastic Four. But many other seminal moments featuring the Fantastic Four are with She-Hulk as a member, like Spider-Man getting his black costume removed and Jean Grey being found alive in her little ocean cocoon. The last official member we're going to talk about today is the second Miss Marvel, Miss Sharon Ventura. Don't run off right away because there are some unofficial bonus members coming after this one, though I think, if I'm counting correctly, this is only 9 official members, which, don't worry, this is kind of a 2-part video, so it works out fine, but I'm sorry that I didn't do 10. I'm better than this, usually. Anyway, Sharon Ventura. She was introduced back in the Thing's solo title in his wrestling days. She got powers from the Power Broker and took on the name Miss Marvel. The Thing was always attempting to romance with her, but she was usually like, no, you're a rock man. And she had a lot of other issues going on. She briefly teamed up with Captain America and they took down the Power Broker. And when the Thing became leader of the Fantastic Four, Reed and Sue were actually stepping away to focus on their family, but instead they joined the Avengers with Gilgamesh. Anyway, the Thing was the leader. And the Human Torch was married to Alicia Masters, and the Thing was like, Ultimately, it was retconned that was a Skrull pretending to be Alicia, but Alicia was the Thing's longtime girlfriend, and, Johnny married her. So yeah, the Thing was like, you know what? I'm gonna put together the Fantastic Four, and guess what? Crystal, your ex-girlfriend, boom, she's on the team. And then the fourth member, I'm talking about Sharon Ventura. Let me get to it. Holy smokes. You guys, I swear to God, you're the best. And I mean that. Really do actually appreciate all my viewers. Anyway, yes, Miss Marvel rounded out the quartet. Unfortunately for her, it came along with Space Adventure and Cosmic Rays, which further mutated the Thing and then turned Ventura into a she-thing, which she did not take well. Reed and Sue eventually returned, and the she-thing stuck around too. She was cured of her thinginess by Dr. Doom as she agreed to spy for him. Inevitably, she betrayed Dr. Doom, and he made her even more thingy than the thingiest thing ever. And this puts us right into the 90s, and when you think 90s Fantastic Four members, I know that you think of the new Fantastic Four, who were never officially members. That's why they're a bonus on this list. But Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben, the Fantastic Four, the status quo, right? Like, in between all of these people, it came down to the four of them. The Fantastic Four. They are, first and foremost, a family. They are the team. I think with someone like the Avengers have the ever-changing roster, the Thunderbolts have quite the roster, the X-Men just all over the place roster, right? But the Fantastic Four, at their core, are just those four members. Even most of these replacements were never really meant to be permanent. Like, even when She-Hulk was on the team, it was like, oh, Ben's coming back soon. Ben came back from Battle Planet, and he was even like, you know what, I got some shit to work out. Left her on the team and was on Earth. He helped him out and stuff, but he was not part of the four. But, like, ultimately, everybody knows the four core members of the Fantastic Four will always be Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny. Like, if someone were to pitch a new X-Men comic, well, they did in the 80s, and they made the original X-Men, it was X-Factor. But, like, nowadays, if someone were to be like, oh, no, we're putting together a team of X-Men, and it's just Cyclops, Angel, Jean Grey, Iceman, and Beast, and be like, what are you doing? Because that's, the X-Men have evolved so far past that, as have several teams. But the Fantastic Four at its core is those four members. Anyway, those four members got kidnapped, and just by happenstance, Spider-Man, Wolverine, the Hulk, and Ghost Rider, the most 90 team you could put together, was there. But even like the comics and everything was just like, this is gratuitous. They just kind of answered a call, went and saved the Fantastic Four. Punisher shows up at the end for no reason whatsoever. Like I said, they were unofficially the new Fantastic Four. A lot of what-ifs and Elseworld tales and things like that will show them together as the Fantastic Four, and it's fun. But, like I said, they just were a makeshift Fantastic Four, unofficially. In an issue of Spider-Man, they all teamed up except for Wolverine, but Sleepwalker was there. And there are some lists that are like, oh, Sleepwalker was a member of the Fantastic Four. No. Sleepwalker was in a team-up that resembled the new Fantastic Four. The new Fantastic Four weren't even members of the Fantastic Four, so to put Sleepwalker in there, just don't. Just don't. Just don't. Anyway, folks, I've been Haussmann Comics. The Fantastic Four movie's coming. They're joining the MCU. I'm recording this a few weeks out. I'm not actually excited about it. I don't know if I should be. I will be there opening day because I'm still me. And that said, this is a 2-part video. Don't know when the other video is coming, but expect it like very soon. I got a strike while the Fantastic Iron is still hot for the next 10 members of the Fantastic Four, but that's like, there's not a huge roster. Between these two videos, we're going to cap the entire roster to date. So look forward to that in the future. Subscribe and stay Aussie! Stay Aussie. Medusa first appeared way back in Fantastic Four number 36, where she was actually a member of the inaugural Fantastic Can I make it any more obvious? And speaking of getting busy, Reed. But then Medusa's like, nah. The tale of the third replacement member of the most known as being a replacement member of the Cosmic Rays with further mutated.